today the wonderful Rowena Garrett, who I've never met before. This is the first time that I've ever had a proper conversation with you. And I'm so pleased that you're here because I, for one, am really excited to hear your story, because up until now, all I've really kind of seen of your journey and your story is through your blog posts, which are amazing. I love reading your blog posts. And I think, I don't even know how we became connected, but we had a mutual connection through marathon running and training. And I think that the very first blog post I read of yours was about a marathon that you had run. And I just felt an immediate connection with you. And so I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your story. And so to start off, if you could just tell us where you're based and where you're from.
Yeah, I'm based down on the south coast, right by the sea. So yeah, which is really important to me. I've lived in the centre of the country before, but being by the sea is super important. So I'm down in Sussex. I'm just outside Brighton. So wow. I'm originally from Shropshire, and I've spent some time in the Midlands as well when I was went to Warwick Uni. But wherever I've lived in other parts of the world, I've always found myself by the sea. So when I lived in Australia, by the sea, in East Africa, by the sea a lot of the time. So it's definitely my space. It's where I intend to stay.
Where you gravitate to. That's fabulous. And so tell us a little bit about what it is that you're doing now and how you kind of came to doing the work that you're doing as a coach.
Yeah, it's I think, like a lot of people, it's a windy road, and an interesting one to get here. I think the work for me as a coach is I work primarily with women, primarily with professional women, and so especially increasingly working with people who are working in for social change. You know, and that might be within any type of organisation or individually. But I think one of the things that's really important to me through all the work I've done myself, and then the people I work with, is that it's people who are passionate about making the kind of positive change. And I think particularly with women, there are a lot of incredible people who for lots of reasons that we're aware of, aren't necessarily sort of stepping into the space as much as they can and are able to. And we really live in a world at the moment that we need that, so I work one-to-one with people, and I also run workshops, and quite a lot of my work is around connecting myself, so in an embodied way, as well as a mindset way, and also connection with nature, which has always been a really important thing for me in my life. And I know that it's very much in the zeitgeist at the moment. We're learning so much more about it in terms of the scientific importance of it, but that's always been threaded through what I do, and that's part of how I work as well, working with seasons, working with with our energies through that.
So that really comes through in your blog posts, that I really feel that you have that strong connection with nature. And I'm sure I saw something recently that you're doing a lot of sea swimming at the moment. Is that right, or have I made that up?
I was really lucky to find a group. They're called the Salty Seabirds. And we go in all year round. So yeah, at least sort of 3 times a week we're in the water. And it's just got to that like bitey point, but it's good.
We'll see. I want to connect with you again in February and see if you're still good. But that's brilliant. And you know what? It's interesting because I read an article about somebody who had started doing like volunteering, and I can't even remember where she was now, but she was basically saying that the transition of her mental state before she had started doing that, like sea swimming and lifeguarding, to where she was afterwards was just moons apart. Mm-hmm. And she said it saved her, because she had moved from a place of real depression where she didn't feel like she wanted to get up in the morning, and it was the only thing that got her out of bed was the idea of coming and joining, connecting with all of these people and swimming in the sea. So I think there's definitely something about that makes it are really compelling. It's not for me. I am like, I just don't think I could do it. I like my warmth too much. I love swimming and I love swimming in the sea, but it has to be like 35 degrees outside when I go in the water.
Oh, I'm all about the, Fijian shores as well. Like, I'm really lucky to have done that. But I think that thing that you touched on, like connection, that's a really big part of it. And, there's a lot of scientific research. It sets up our vagus nerve, so that connection between body and mind, and it's about building resilience as well. So it's a really good way to do that, in the same way as a lot of outdoor activities are, and pushing ourselves in a supported way. So and just the hilarity of it as well. We're getting to the point of the year where we all like scream. There's these weird like guttural noises as we go in, and that's a release as well, and for me, I've been in that place, with anxiety and depression, and I know what that's like, and it's a really powerful thing to support with that. So
it's really interesting what you're saying about your connection with nature, because I was I actually put something out there on Instagram a few weeks ago where there's research that's been shown that people who spend more time in nature and who spend more time outside, and obviously we know about exercise and all that kind of stuff, it massively reduces their risk of heart disease. And even just having a view from your window or plants in your office can also bring down your stress levels and increase your resilience. And I think that's fascinating.
It's really interesting, isn't it? And being out in nature. So some of my workshops, what we do is actually some are more traditional coaching. So we'll bring in elements of ecotherapy and connection there, but actually just being in that space, it offers up, it's restorative, and it's really positive for reflection and exactly the sort of processes that we want to be able to open ourselves up to when we're being coached. It creates that beautiful context for it, for like our bodies and our minds. So yeah. Really
so with that in mind, I mean, obviously running has been a big part of your life. I would love to hear more about your running story, and maybe that's just for selfish purposes, because it's important. It's an important part of my life. But you also posted a few months ago about the fact that you had been doing, like, was it 5 marathons or 5 half marathons every month? No, you'd been doing half a marathon a month or something insane. And I was like, wow, this woman is an inspiration. So I need to know more about that. What inspired you to do that?
Well, it goes back to that journey we were talking about. I started off as a teacher, and I worked a little bit of corporate, but mostly within the education space. I worked supporting volunteers in education spaces when I was in East Africa. And then on coming back to the UK, I was coordinator for a refugee education project. So we're working over in northern France, in Calais, in Dunkirk and around, and also supporting other projects. So really it was a fundraiser for that. And the previous year I'd been really lucky to get a space in London, marathon, did that. I always said I wouldn't do it, got the space. I was like, right, I've got to do it. One of the most amazing things I'd ever done. So I thought, well, no one's going to give me money now if I go and run 10K. And I was actually out walking and I came up with this idea. So yeah, a different one each month. I varied it, went to some incredible places, and also encouraged people to come along and join in. So there were a couple I did on my own. It's a bit like life, sometimes it's 5:30 in the morning and it's dark and raining and you've just got to go and do it yourself. And then other times there were like 5, 6, 10 of us all running. So raising money and also, spreading the word, which was as much what it was about, to let people know what's going on, because it's really gone out of the media spotlight. And yet, a lot of, there are still millions of people who are displaced around the world. So it was also a sort of a fun way to, to highlight that to people as well.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. Well, let's finish off the running thing. So how many months did you do a half marathon for every month?
I did it for a year. Yeah.
Well done. So have you finished that now? Has that year?
Yep, that was 2018. That was 2018, and in fact, this weekend is the Conwy one in North Wales, which a gang of us just did last year. So yeah, it's yeah. I went off running for about 4 or 5 months afterwards. I was like, no, but I'm back into it now. I missed it, like it's in me.
So were you doing the Conway one this year or not? It's just a reminder.
I'm not able to go, but some of the people who signed up, they are doing it, so it's nice. It's like it's continuing. It's good.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Well done. Well, I've only managed one half marathon this year, so it feels really, really lame in comparison with that. But I did do a mud run a few weeks ago, which was the funniest thing I think I've ever done. And do you know what? I was so resistant to doing it. A friend of mine put together a team of 5 of us, and I really, really didn't want to do it. But because I was part of the team, I kind of felt like I couldn't come up with an excuse. I couldn't back out of it. So I went and did it, and I was in a bit of a grump. It was on a Sunday. I was in a bit of a grump, and I got there, and honestly, my stomach muscles hurt for about a week afterwards, because there's nothing funnier than watching one of your friends face plant in mud. And it's like, it was just the most brilliant experience. It was only 5 miles with 30 obstacles. So next year we're going to do it again. We're going to do the 8 miles, 40 obstacle one. But I can so recommend it to anyone who needs a really good giggle, because it is definitely the most I've laughed in such a long time. But maybe that's just my sick sense of humor, but it was very, very funny. So
people falling over and people farting are always going to be funny. So, you know.
It never grows old, does it? It never grows old. So that's great. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to ask you about was Africa. How did you end up in East Africa, and what part were you in?
I was in Tanzania, and I was out there with VSO. So yeah, I was really fortunate, and I know it's an area, a part of the world that's really important to you as well, isn't it? You've spent time out there. Were you in Tanzania?
I've spent a little bit of time in Tanzania, not much time. Much of my childhood was spent in West Africa, and my grandparents were based down in Johannesburg in South Africa. So when we visited them, we weren't allowed back into Nigeria on our same passport because of the apartheid in South Africa. So we used to go via Kenya, Tanzania, all that. So we did quite a lot of East Africa, just kind of passing through, which was amazing. So fortunate to have been able to do that. But
oh yeah,
what a great experience. So VSO is often, well, my brother did it for 3 years. He got sent, ironically, he got sent back to Nigeria as with VSO, which my mother was heartbroken about. But were you doing it for 3 years?
I wasn't there for 3 years. I was there for the year, and I was managing other volunteers when I was out there. So it's a slightly different program. I would have really liked to have done the longer one. It just, with the programs that were available at the time, that didn't happen. But yeah, it was an incredible experience, and I was really lucky. I was in 2 different places. So I was up literally on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. So I would like walk down the track to work in the morning, and in a little place called Marangu, and we would and I could look up if the clouds weren't there and see Kili, which was didn't get old. And then I moved down to the coast, so I was down quite far south near the border with Mozambique, and working down there, so in a place called Lindi. And yeah, I'm really lucky to have been back a couple of times. I went to a friend's wedding a couple of years ago. We were the only Mzungu, the white people there, which was brilliant. I got to like dust off my Swahili because I loved learning it, learning Swahili when I was there. And I think that it's just so, you know, I've always been very aware of the privileges that I've been born into, you know, not what we would call privileges in this country, but in terms of what I have, apart from anything else being white and Western. And, you know, just as many opportunities as you have to visit different places, as well as in this country, you know, to be aware of the different the different privileges or lack of that people have. I think it opens us up and it supports us in working with different people. So obviously there are lots of people in Tanzania who are far wealthier than me. That's not to say that everyone isn't, but a lot of people I was working with weren't. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah, that gap can be huge. between the wealthy and the people who have so little. And something that really struck me whilst I was traveling, I mean, I've traveled extensively in Africa, and obviously I've lived over there a lot, but in fact, when I look back at the time that I spent in Bangladesh, my brother worked for DFID in Bangladesh for 3 years as well. And I went to visit him whilst I was traveling. And I think Bangladesh is officially the poorest country in the world. And yet, honestly, hand on heart, I can tell you they are the happiest people I've ever met. And these people who literally have nothing, and it's incredible how grateful and joyous they are. And I just find we could learn so much from these communities who have so little. And I'm really desperate to take my boys out to Africa, because I really want them to start to understand, you know, like you're talking about, the privilege that we're born into over here is just, it's inconceivable to the people who aren't actually born into this area and have the things that we have. So we had this idea that when my husband left the military 3 years ago, that we would take some time off and go and build a school in Africa, probably in Uganda or somewhere. And unfortunately it didn't happen because his work, we just thought that he would have this period of time between his next job, leaving the army and then moving on to his next role. And actually, of course, you know what it's like. Employers just want you, like, okay, they want you to start yesterday. So we didn't get that opportunity, but I'm still determined that it's something that we will do, because I really want it to be an experience that my boys have. So yeah, I love that you've done the whole East Africa thing as well.
I'm really lucky. And, you know, it led me into other things here, working with Women's Centre here in Brighton, and working and then going on to work with the project that I was here. And I think that's important as well. Sometimes people think, oh, I can't go and live in East Africa for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And actually, you know, like round the corner, there are so many different projects that we can get involved in. And an hour or two a week is really important. And I think it helps with that. I talk a lot with people about values and purpose in life, and you know, and actually having something that we give to other people, looking after ourselves, but also, you know, giving what we can to others is a really important part, I think, of a whole life, and it can also lead on. You never know what it can lead on to. But it's just around the corner, and sadly more than it should be in this country at the moment. But there are always opportunities.
Yeah, no, it's so true, actually. And often we think that we can't do anything because we're too far away, but there is often something that we can do that's literally right under our nose. And ironically, that's what I found when I left Zambia. So I worked in Zambia for a year. And I found, when I was given the opportunity to work at a conservation organization in California, even though it's literally the other side of the world from Zambia, we were able to achieve so much more and have so much more impact than I was even when I was on the ground in Zambia, where we had no telephone, and we had no internet connection. So long-wave radio was our only form of communication. There's not much you can do when you're in that kind of situation in terms of having any kind of impact. I mean, you can, obviously there's stuff that you do, but you can do so much more when you're connected, and even if you're far away. So yeah, that's a really good message actually to put out there for people, because it's so enriching to be able to do something for something that's valuable to you and that you feel passionate about. So yeah, so that's fabulous. So Rowena, I could chat to you for ages. But let me know where people can find out a little bit more about you, and if they want to connect with you, because I know that you have created this fabulous website and you blog regularly. I know all of that about you because I see you showing up in the group a lot. So how can people find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, you can find me at rowentreecoaching, or .com. Yeah, rowentreecoaching.com. So a bit of a play on my name, but also with a nod to being in nature. And Rowan trees is a space for there's a lot of mythology around them as well, in terms of protection and empowerment and things like that. So and survival in extreme places. So yeah, so rowentreecoaching.com.
Fabulous. Yeah. So if you send me the link on Messenger, I'll post it alongside this video. You can find out more about you. But I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been lovely to finally meet you properly, not through words on a screen. And actually, we have quite a few parallels in a lot of ways. So it's been really nice to connect with you. And thank you for coming on for our second episode of The Journey to You. So I really appreciate it. It's been lovely to meet you.
It's been so lovely to meet you. Thank you. And thank you for creating this platform, because just looking at how many people have signed up really shows like what how empowering it feels for people, you know, to be given that space and the connection that it creates with other people. So thank you.
Well, thank you, because actually you were one of the first ones to hop onto that thread and kind of validate what was only really an idea in my head at that point in time. So so it's been really great to have you on board. So thank you so much, Rowena.
Thank you, and have a lovely day, won't you?
Thank you, and you take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.